What is a word we can use to describe this man? Disgusting, grotesque, just, we need to start, we can use sounds too. I don't even know what to say. These cases, like the one I'm going to talk about, are the most disgusting cases ever. Because you think, how did they get away with it for so long? I'm talking a decade. What are we talking about? We're talking about incest within the family, and there are kids involved who have been born because of that incest. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Oh my goodness, I have not recorded in so long. It's too long. A week is too long. I didn't record the entire time last week. I've been uploading shorts because I have been so tired and I have just been working. Like, y'all, I did not sign up for this. I need a check, but it's like, come on. Like, work takes too much of my time, and not even that, I'm so tired when I get home that I don't feel like putting nothing on. I don't feel like getting in front of a camera. So I guess you could say the good side is that I have been able to relax without recording, but I have not because I be driving all day and it's just working out. It's a lot of work what I do, okay? Oh my goodness. But, you know, I enjoy the times I do have off. I actually have today off. I had 2 days off. Yesterday I relaxed the whole day, went to an antique store, found a really cute rug, and I just chilled and I had Chinese food. And then today I'm gonna be just relaxing and recording videos and researching. And I'm gonna record a couple of videos today so I can have time to edit throughout the day. Because the good thing is that I'm not closing this whole week. But I do want to get my recording back together, or try to. I don't know how this is going to be, like a 1 video per week thing or a 2 video, or I'm gonna just record and upload when I can, because I literally don't know, y'all. I don't think I can be on the schedule right now because my schedule at work is just so all over the place that it's just, I don't have time. In my off days, I literally just want to sleep all day. So I really just try to record when I can. Realistically, I record when I want. That's where we at. And that's how I used to be. Basically, that's how I was. I tried to stick to the schedule a little bit before I was working. And it was easier because I had a lot of time on my hand. But I don't no more. And I'm tired when I get off of work. But I'm gonna see what happens. But I have been missing so much stuff, y'all. I have been missing so much crime. I have like 6 pages pulled up. I'm looking at like my monitor in front of me of cases. I had to put more cases last night on here. Like, I have been too backed up and I need to talk about these cases. I have a lot of content for you guys with this channel with the crimes I like research. So that's the good thing about it. So what are we talking about today? We're going to jump right into it because it's absolutely disgusting ill. This is about a man who fathered 3 children by his daughter. Oh my goodness. He was charged with incest. Ugh. I hate that word. 150 other crimes in this. He R-worded his daughter starting at the age of 9. Y'all, they have 3 children together. The grandma knew if she was protecting this 44-year-old man. How do you even fathom what I just said? I don't even know. How do you do this? Now, realistically, I'm over here thinking, what does this mean for the family? How is this even possible? What do the kids do? They're alive. Like, do they still call him granddad? Like, this is disgusting, and this is the most shocking part, because you really got to think about it. His kids are his grandkids. Oh my God. Oh, if y'all, I'm gonna say it. If this isn't the, ooh, I don't know if I can say that, but I was going to say, you know, the backwaters. No offense. But, you know, they always be like, family stay together in Alabama. I don't know where this was at, but that's what it's given, okay? But, you know what's crazy? It be I've seen a couple of cases like this with keeping it in the family, and it's absolutely disgusting. It's illegal. There could be a lot of problems, like ill. I don't even know. I don't know anything about this, but we're going to be reacting to it on Law and Crime. We're going to be watching the video, y'all. Better than me reading it, because I need to understand what happened. And I like Jesse Weber, so Let's get into it.
A man is facing more than 150 charges after police say he sexually assaulted his own daughter for more than a decade, fathering multiple children with her. She's now opened up about her struggle on social media. She is casting blame on who she says is responsible, as he now faces lifetimes behind bars. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
And before I start this, I want to apologize for the sound. Y'all, my PC is really loud right now, and I'm trying to fix it, okay? So that's the sound you hear. Hopefully you don't. I'm going to try to lower it. But that's what that is. Is there a ghost in here or something? Okay. Okay, y'all. Is it me, or I feel like it may sound Victorian, but I feel like we should bring back the death penalty with cases like this. I don't care. I don't care. I may be just born in the wrong era. Well, I wouldn't be alive in that era too, but you know, I'm talking about crimes to definitely be more punished. We need more punishment.
A father, which if these allegations are true, maybe we use loosely, a father is being held in jail pending trial in Raleigh County, West Virginia, for allegedly sexually assaulting his own daughter for 12 years, starting when she was only 9 years old. Yeah. And by the way, in a horrific, disgusting, disturbing twist, the two now have 3 children together. To talk about this, let me bring back onto Sidebar Marion Bracha, practice professor of law, former child abuse, sex crimes prosecutor. So Marion, this is pretty disgusting. This is beyond disturbing. Are incest cases more common than we might realize, unfortunately?
Well, the cases might not be very common because, unfortunately, when there is abuse within a family, oftentimes it will go unreported, undocumented, unprosecuted. So the cases themselves probably aren't as frequent as the actual occurrence of the crime is. But it certainly happens, as we can see in this case.
By the way, so these are allegations, right? He's innocent until proven guilty. I have to say that. I have to remind myself of that, given what he's charged with, and we will talk about the charges, what the allegations are. How on earth, in a trial, an incest trial, right? If this happens, when it happens, if they happen in general, how do you get a fair and impartial jury?
I think that most defense attorneys would ask the same question. And this is probably a case where because there are offspring involved, because this alleged sexual relationship resulted in the birth of 3 children, 3 offspring. This is actually a case that can be proved on the science. It can be proved based on blood tests, DNA results, birth records.
And don't get mad like I am, y'all. I gotta keep telling myself they're only saying alleged because, you know, the court, that's what it is, the law, until they figure out, well, they know it's his kids, I do believe, but, you know, until you go to trial, they have to say that, even though everybody know that man guilty. How can they, you know, that's a good question. How can you get a jury to even try to say he's not guilty? Like, oh my God, I don't even know. There's some disgusting people out here. And I was right, the backwaters of Virginia, that too, it's Alabama, Virginia, South Carolina. I don't know if they really do it. I think it's backwaters everywhere, to be honest. Okay, Kansas, there is just backwaters everywhere. But y'all, in the South, it's backwaters. Arkansas, so y'all, backwaters.
Other vital records. And so this is probably a case where the defense would seek to minimize or seek to challenge the science or the results of DNA testing or the validity of the records that are introduced. But you're right, this isn't a case where there is an affirmative defense saying, sure, I did it, but here's why, and this is why I shouldn't be convicted. There would really have to be a challenge to the proof elements that the prosecution would present.
So this is the suspect. This is the suspect in this case, 44-year-old Kenneth Cook. He is reportedly facing 152 charges right now. We had a felony complaint that was first filed against him in December of 2024. People magazine reports that one of the children was found suffering from neglect in August, which seems to have maybe been the jumping off point for an investigation. He was charged with sexual abuse, sexual assault, child neglect, and 3 counts of incest. And then a warrant was issued for his arrest. He wasn't taken into custody until March. And since then, he has been indicted. Now faces 149 total counts of incest, plus sexual assault, sexual abuse, child neglect, so 152 charges in total. Marion, is this typical? I've covered cases like this before where you have an alleged victim or victims describe repeated acts, repeated instances of sexual abuse, and yet they're not charged. The defendant's not charged for every one of those individual acts. This feels different. Is it typical to charge someone like this?
Well, I can't speak to what is typical because that really does vary jurisdiction to jurisdiction and state by state. In this particular jurisdiction in West Virginia, whoever the charging authority was, whether it's the state attorney or the district attorney or the local police department, it would be up to them. It would be within their purview to determine how many charges to attach. So with a defendant who's charged with this many counts of incest, I think what we can glean from that is that the charging authority is saying in these 149 instances, this defendant allegedly engaged in sexual contact with an offspring, with a child of his own who was his daughter. And so that number, that figure may have come about pursuant to their investigation, pursuant to their interviews with the complaining witness, with the daughter in this case. So it really is up to the charging authority whether they attach one charge per instance over a course of conduct over a number of years, or whether they attach just one charge to reflect an ongoing course of conduct.
Or it could be, you wonder if there's so many charges, and if there's a weakness with respect to a few, does that jeopardize the whole case? I imagine the way that they try to prove 149 episodes is to have the victim in this case testify about each one of them, which just to me sounds like such a daunting, grueling task for her to describe this in detail.
Let's talk about that. 152 times. That is a lot to explain. Also, like, how can you explain everyone? You know what? People keep trauma in, and if it's really severe, which all of it is, it's amazing that she can recount all of that. But let's talk about something. Now, talking about the case itself, if you're really thinking about it, I wouldn't say this is a thing about him being being attracted to his daughter. Could be, but be for real. This is a perverted man. He's a pedophile. He has been like that his whole life, you can tell, or at least until it started, because this started when she was 9 years old, 12 years ago. So he's attacking his daughter already. And he's just a pedo. That's what it is. That's what it is. I don't know what's the brain makeup of that, or how psychologists and psychiatrists even diagnose this, if something happened to his family. And that's where I try to look at it. I'd be like, what happened in his life? I don't care about what happened with him, by the way. The man is disgusting. But I feel like it stems from something with his childhood that he continued to do that. I don't know, y'all. I'm trying to put this together. I'm just saying, looking at it that way, it's disgusting. I feel so bad for the daughter. Oh my God. And then with her part, she did nothing wrong. She was probably told her entire life by being attacked by him that this is right. This is the only way. You better not say anything. Typical of what pedophiles do when they attack children. And then as the years go by, you have him being protected because he has not, nobody has ever found out. It's crazy how long this lasted. Wow. Where's her mother?
Is there a strength in numbers, or could it hurt the prosecution when you have so many charges?
No, I think you've perfectly crystallized the strength and weaknesses of charging like this, attaching one particular count to each instance of the offense. I think that perhaps the thought process of attaching one charge per instance is to be able to aggregate the sentence. So if the statutory maximum penalty or sentence on one charge of incest is, say, 20 years, if the defendant is convicted of more than one count of incest, he can be sentenced to consecutive periods of imprisonment. So it could be 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus however many charges he's found guilty of. So I think that is the thought process in terms of charging that many counts. But realistically, when it comes to trial, would you have a complainant on the stand testifying to 149 different instances? Probably not. I haven't seen that, but I think there is something being communicated there by the prosecution and by the charging authority that there is enough evidence to proceed to trial if they wanted to, and if they wanted to present testimony and evidence on those 149 different counts, they could.
And by the way, if someone's convicted of that, every charge, would a judge run every sentence concurrently or consecutively? Because it's consecutively, you're looking at what? The rest of your life in prison.
Right. And again, that would be up to the sentencing judge. That would be something that the prosecution could ask for statutory maximum consecutive sentences, so 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20 that I described before, or they could run concurrently, which means that all the sentences on the individual charges, if the defendant is convicted, would run at the same time.
Now, we got our hands on this indictment. It's 18 pages long, and it lists out every single one of those 152 charges. For example, count 1 is third-degree sexual assault of the victim, identified in the indictment as AT, and this is in connection with an alleged incident when she was 14 years old. Count 2, sexual abuse by parent, guardian, custodian, or person in a position of trust, also connected to when she was 14 years old. By the way, the fact that they have to have a charge like this is just disgusting in and of itself, but obviously things like this happen. Then you got counts 3 through 151. Those are the incest charges. And then count 152 is gross child neglect creating substantial risk of serious bodily injury or death. That last count is apparently in connection with one of Cook's youngest children, a 1-year-old, identified only as KC, although investigators indicated that all 3 children, now ages 5, 3, and 1, according to outlet Channel 2 Now, they were found to be suffering from neglect. Marion, how do you prove neglect of someone so young?
Well, again,
How do you even explain any of this to the children? What happens to them? Like, like say you have, I don't know if they have family, because I would probably, they're not, there are they by themselves? Like, is the mom in the life? I don't think so. Like, what's going on with this family? I'm pretty sure they're probably going to talk about the grandma, but I guess there's more information. I read that in the comments, y'all. Everybody was talking about that part. But I'm like, where is the rest of the family? What is going on in this family? Like, I don't know. He just seemed like he's just so, I just feel like he's so country. I just feel like that's what he sounds like. But I'm not the suspect. But the fact that he didn't see nothing wrong with this is how you know he's a pedo. He don't care. He's a child predator. He's an attacker, and just disgusting all over. The charges 3 all the way to 150 was incest charges. Oh my God.
I think that is something that is not a biological relative of his, is not a blood relative of his. Maybe he could claim that she's a stepchild or an otherwise family relation, but they are not descended from the same ancestor. That's really the definition of incest. Now, of course, a very simple blood test and paternity test might undermine that defense if that were something that he wanted to put forward. That would be one defense. The other defense is something we alluded to earlier, which would be that any of the science, any of the paternity tests or blood tests that the prosecution would seek to introduce would be tainted or would be unreliable expert testimony, and that would come down to a judge's determination as to whether the jury would be permitted to hear from those experts and hear the results of that testing.
Even if she was 18 years old, consent is not a defense to incest, right?
Correct.
Good.
It's not a consent. It is not a defense to incest. We have public policy and public health reasons behind criminalizing incest, and going back historically, the public health concern for incest was the prevalence of genetic disorders. If people who are descended again from the same ancestor and come from the same bloodline are reproducing, there is a higher likelihood of recessive genes coming to the fore, and that could lead to lines of genetic disorders. And so there is a public health concern for it first and foremost, even if the sexual contact were between 2 consenting adults who are from the same bloodline. But of course, where we see incest most, at least from a prosecutor's perspective, is when there is an adult perpetrator against a child victim.
Yeah. Now, Cook's daughter, who's now in her 20s, has actually publicly identified herself as Alexandria Thomas on social media. And as we went through the indictment, we realized something. Each of those incest charges is connected to a 1-month period of her life, starting when she was only 9 years old. So there are 12 charges for every year between the ages of 9 and 20, and then 6 months worth when the victim was 21. The most recent abuse charge is from July of 2024. Now, again, we talked about the idea of there is no defense to that, the incest, the consent. But here's the important part. Alexandra posted about her experience on her Facebook page, and this is what she wrote, quote, "Since court has now ended, I'm going to speak my part on the monster most of y'all keep messaging me about. I've reported him multiple times since I was 9 years old, but my grandmother worked hand in hand with CPS. Nobody believed me. She made them all think I was lying about it. When my grandpa found out what was happening, he didn't even look surprised. The last time I told a guidance counselor what was happening and CPS was called, my grandma had it swept under the rug, and my dad told me if I ever told again, he knew ways to get me erased." Okay. Now, Marion, we don't know if this is all true. If this is true, it's highly disturbing. First of all, generally speaking, if these allegations are true, is that something you've heard before? I think I just covered a case recently where there was an allegation where a parent came forward and said, don't bring to light this. I think it was a stepmother accused of having sexual relations with her stepson, and the stepson was allegedly told by family members, don't say anything, don't report her. Is this something that happens?
Constantly, Jesse, constantly.
Oh.
This is a terrible situation that I have heard far too many times in my career, where abuse of a child, in particular sexual abuse of a child, is swept under the rug and is something that the family wants to deal with internally, or the family doesn't want publicized. And there's certainly a concern for public shame and other cultural considerations, but this is unfortunately not something that is new to hear.
If these allegations are true, and these are just allegations, what liability could grandparents face here? Could the grandparents face here?
So there is a charge that you mentioned in Pennsylvania, where I live and practice. We refer to it as EWOC, endangering the welfare of a child. And that, I believe, is the second charge that attaches to Cook's indictment under the West Virginia terminology and the West Virginia statutory code. So if these grandparents had any kind of supervisory relationship with the child, if they had any kind of caregiving responsibilities over her when she was a child, they could potentially face criminal charges for endangering her welfare by not by allowing her to remain in this abusive setting, in this abusive environment, and prolonging the abuse for almost the entirety of her childhood.
What about the CPS? If they were alerted, didn't do more, what do you think? Did they face any kind of liability?
I looked into that too, Jesse. That would be something called a Monell claim, and that's where a private citizen can sue the government for failure to protect their due process rights, their due process to life, essentially. And that might be hard to prove. It might be a negligence claim. It might be that they would bring a charge against one particular social worker or one particular caseworker for having dropped the proverbial ball, so to speak. But to bring a claim against the entire social services department might be a challenge, because the plaintiff, if this were a civil case, would have to prove that there was a culture or a policy or practice in place of depriving people in AT's position of their due process rights. So it is certainly something that I'm sure a very skilled civil litigator would look at. I think it would be a challenge to bring a 1983 Monell claim, but it is something that's worth looking into.
And based on these allegations in the Facebook post, and let's go back to Alexandra's Facebook post. It says, quote, "My youngest was born with health issues and stayed in the hospital for the first week of his life, but wasn't allowed to go to the doctors afterward because he was scared of the truth of what he had done leaking out. I was nursing a sick baby on my own who desperately needed medical attention." Again, Marion, really disturbing allegations. What do you make of her posting this publicly for the world to know?
Well, I mean, it would be a foreshadowing. It would be a preview, I would anticipate, of testimony that she would give, or perhaps testimony that she's already given before an indicting grand jury. This would be the sum and substance of her testimony to substantiate the neglect charge for the youngest child. I think it also might perhaps go to explain some of the complainant's conduct over the past 5 years or so. She was still under the pressure. She was still under the mental forcible compulsion of her father. And because of that, her hands were even tied insofar as caring for her youngest. So if there were ever a question about her neglect of the child, or her lack of care or provision of medical care or support for the child. I think this is serving as an explanation for how the child got to be in such poor condition.
And just to be clear, the idea of this happening allegedly for 12 years, 3 children are born out of this. She's so young. How on earth has this been allowed to go on? How on earth was he not arrested, or was this really further investigated? I think people are going to look at this story and say, I don't understand it. I don't get why we're talking about it now and not years ago.
I completely agree with you. And I think that's why we need to pay a lot of attention when children tell us that there is something amiss in their lives, when they are concerned or when they are uncomfortable about something. It really does, to overuse the phrase, but it really does take a village. And so if there are teachers, social workers, guidance counselors, caseworkers, grandparents, neighbors, other people in the children's lives who are seeing that there is something amiss, then it really is the responsibility of all of us to look out for the children in our communities and the children who might be exposed to this great risk.
Now, in terms of Cook, the defendant, he's been locked up in Raleigh County Jail in a $500,000 bond since March. He's due back in court this month. I also was thinking, the fact that he's charged with so many crimes, is that leverage for him to work out a deal? They don't want to have Alexandria Thomas take the stand. They don't want to have her relive all of these alleged incidents, right? So if you charge him with 152 crimes, is there leverage to drop some, work something out? I can understand why prosecutors would not want this to go to trial.
Absolutely. And I think that they would have the complainant, that they would have Alexandra Thomas's best interests and her concerns front and foremost in their minds.
Okay, that was a lot of information to take in. So I don't even know where to start, y'all. It was literally just so much. This is a sad case for the daughter. He's so disgusting. How can you do this to somebody? I like the word she used. Did she use mental? I don't know. She said some mental, because it's like he definitely tricked her mentally, because it's like to not tell nobody. Also physically, the threats he made. And I guess if his lawyers can't even try to say anything, they can't even. They'll probably say, well, how do we know this is true? DNA. That's all you need, DNA. I am one of the people where I always believe that CPS should also be charged with these cases, because they don't do their job. They don't protect kids, and it's crazy how they don't. I'm like, that's your job, is literally to protect the child. Now, I believe that, like everything she said in that post, that she tried to tell them they wouldn't do anything, because it sounds believable after all this. Oh my God. The grandparents should be charged. Just everybody but her should be charged. Like, oh my gosh. Him saying that he would, kill her, I would believe it, because look at this case. That's not unknown when people do this and they try to threaten the victim, to try to keep them quiet. That's so common. It's so crazy. But how can his parents be okay with this? That's why I keep saying backwaters, because I'm like, what did y'all do in y'all childhood? Because do it run in the family with them, like the grandparents? Do it run in the family? Because I would believe it. I really would. That's what I'm saying. You would be surprised, y'all. In the South, it happens a lot. It's disgusting. And you wouldn't know, because nobody reports anything. And also, the kids they can't say anything. They're too afraid. And they're getting threatened by their family members to shut up. It's crazy. Just like she said, he is definitely a monster. The fact that he didn't see nothing wrong with it, just a pedophile, y'all. Big pedo. The grandparents, pedos too. I would say they're pedos as well. CPS, they're this close to be called one, but I know, they have a business, but they don't do their job. And I don't understand why they don't do their job. Geez, you have 3 kids born in this situation, already born with birth defects and, problems at birth. This is a real thing. What do you do if that's you? She had no choice but to keep the kids, because it's like she's still a mom, and I guess she's looking at it that way. She's still a mother, but I don't know. I think that's a real question. What do you do? can you still see them? And it's heartbreaking to say this, y'all, but I'm thinking realistically. I'm just trying to see with this case. Do you still see them, I guess you can say, as your kids? Because they're also his kids and they're also his grandkids. Like, that's really, and they're also your siblings. Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. Those are her kids, but biologically those are also her siblings because that's her dad. Oh my God, the family tree just is messed up in my head thinking about this. Oh my God, that's really scary. I don't know what to say. This is too much. He deserves death. Get him out of here. Cut him, castrate him. You know what? Castrate him and hang him up and get him out of here. Don't deserve to be here. Disgusting. Oh my God. I started the first case on July 1st, y'all. And since I said that, I guess it's going up today. This is insane. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. What do you think of this case? This is disgusting. This is very disgusting. Disturbing and disgusting. I don't know. It's so much. The grandparents definitely need to be charged. They're sickos. And I would not be surprised if this ran through their family. I would not be surprised. So on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was very sick and disturbing, and I don't know what else to say. It's so just gut-wrenching disgusting. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay safe, stay aware, and stay alert. And believe children when they tell you that something is going on at home. And on that note, I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.